House Hightower isn't just another noble family in Westeros. They're the puppet masters behind the Iron Throne, and they've been playing the Game of Thrones since before the Targaryens even had dragons. While everyone's obsessed with the Targaryens and their fire-breathing pets, the Hightowers have been quietly building an empire that's lasted thousands of years longer than any dragon dynasty. In House of the Dragon, Otto Hightower isn't just some ambitious hand. He's carrying on a family legacy of manipulation that makes Littlefinger look like an amateur. Today, I'm breaking down the 8 most shocking truths about the Hightower Empire that explain why they're the real power behind the Dance of the Dragons. And trust me, when you learn about their connection to the Maesters and the Faith, you'll realize they've been controlling Westeros from the shadows all along. Before we dive into the Hightower Empire, we need to understand something crucial. In Westeros, true power isn't always about who sits on the Iron Throne. It's about who controls the institutions that shape society. And no family has mastered this better than House Hightower. Based in Oldtown, the oldest and for most of history the largest city in Westeros, the Hightowers have been building their influence for over 6,000 years. That's not a typo. They were ancient when the Starks were just beginning to rule the North, and they were wealthy when the Lannisters were still minor lords. In House of the Dragon, we see Otto Hightower and his daughter Alicent playing pivotal roles in triggering the Targaryen Civil War. But their actions aren't just about personal ambition. They're continuing a family tradition of manipulating the realm from behind the scenes. I've analyzed Fire and Blood, the World of Ice and Fire, and all the available lore to bring you the 8 most crucial aspects of the Hightower Empire that you need to understand to fully appreciate their role in House of the Dragon. So let's dive into the shadowy world of Westeros' oldest and most cunning dynasty. The oldest dynasty in Westeros, predating even the First Men. House Hightower isn't just old, they're ancient beyond comprehension. While most noble houses in Westeros trace their lineage back to the Andals or the First Men, the Hightowers may predate both. According to some legends, they descend from the Great Empire of the Dawn, a mysterious civilization that existed before recorded history. The founder of House Hightower, Uther of the High Tower, wasn't a conqueror or a warrior. He was a trickster who used his wits to claim the massive fortress at the mouth of the Honeywine River. This fortress wasn't built by him or his descendants. It was already ancient when he found it, constructed of a mysterious black stone that appears in only a few places around the world. This origin story is crucial to understanding the Hightower mentality. Unlike houses that built their power through conquest, like the Targaryens, or through mining, like the Lannisters, the Hightowers began by outsmarting others and claiming what was already built. This pattern of leveraging existing institutions rather than creating new ones has defined their strategy for millennia. In House of the Dragon, we see this legacy in Otto Hightower's approach to power. He doesn't seek the throne for himself. He works within the existing system, placing his daughter beside the king and his grandson on the throne. The Hightowers don't need to wear the crown to rule. They prefer to control the hand that wears it. What makes this truly shocking is that the Hightowers may be the last remnant of a civilization that predates all known history in Westeros. The black stone base of the Hightower Fortress shares characteristics with the mysterious oily black stone of the sea stone chair of the Iron Islands and the buildings of Ashai, suggesting connections to ancient, possibly magical civilizations that have otherwise vanished from the world. Oldtown, the true capital of Westeros. While King's Landing gets all the attention as the seat of the Iron Throne, Oldtown has been the true capital of Westeros for thousands of years, and it remains the center of the 2 most powerful institutions in the realm, the Citadel and the Faith of the Seven. Oldtown is the oldest, and for most of history, the largest city in Westeros. It was the center of trade, learning, and religion long before Aegon the Conqueror ever set foot on the continent. And at the heart of Oldtown stands the High Tower, the tallest structure in Westeros, even taller than the Wall, with a beacon that guides ships into the harbor. The Hightowers don't just rule Oldtown, they are Oldtown. Their name is literally taken from their ancestral seat. They've shaped every aspect of the city's development for millennia, accumulating wealth that rivals or exceeds that of House Lannister. What makes Oldtown truly powerful is that it's the center of knowledge and faith in Westeros. The Citadel, where all Maesters are trained, is located there. The Starry Sept was the seat of the Faith of the Seven before the construction of the Great Sept of Baelor. This means that for thousands of years, every Maester who advised a lord and every Septon who preached to the small folk was trained in the Hightower's city under their watchful eye. In House of the Dragon, we see the consequences of this influence. Otto Hightower served as hand to 2 kings, but his power doesn't come just from that position. It comes from his family's deep connections to the institutions that shape how Westeros thinks and believes. When he argues for Aegon II's claim over Rhaenyra's, he's not just expressing a personal opinion. He's leveraging centuries of Hightower influence over the Maesters who record history and the Septons who interpret law and tradition. The brutal truth is that while the Targaryens conquered Westeros with fire and blood, the Hightowers had already been ruling its mind and soul for thousands of years, and continued to do so right under the dragons' noses. The Citadel connection, controlling knowledge and history. One of the most powerful weapons in Westeros isn't Valyrian steel or dragonfire, it's the control of information. And no family has mastered this better than the Hightowers through their deep connection to the Citadel. The Citadel, where all maesters are trained, was founded in Oldtown under Hightower patronage. While officially independent, the Citadel has been influenced by the Hightowers for its entire existence. They funded its construction, provided land for its expansion, and have maintained close relationships with the Archmaesters who govern it. This connection gives the Hightowers extraordinary power. They can influence what knowledge is preserved, what history is recorded, and what advice masters give to lords throughout the Seven Kingdoms. Think about it. Every major castle has a maester trained in Oldtown, sending and receiving information through ravens controlled by the Citadel. It's the medieval equivalent of controlling both the internet and the education system. There's even a controversial theory, supported by some textual evidence, that the maesters were responsible for the decline and eventual extinction of dragons after the dance. The Citadel has always been skeptical of magic, preferring a world governed by reason and predictable natural laws, a world where their knowledge gives them power, rather than one where dragon riders can impose their will through magical beasts. In House of the Dragon, we see hints of this anti-dragon bias. Grand Maester Mellos and later Grand Maester Orwyle both serve on the Small Council, with access to the king and influence over royal decisions. It's no coincidence that both end up supporting the Green faction aligned with the Hightowers against Rhaenyra. The most disturbing aspect of this control is that the Hightowers can literally shape how history remembers events. The accounts we have of the Dance of the Dragons come primarily from three sources: Grand Maester Munkun's The Dance of the Dragons, a true telling, Septon Eustace's account, and Mushroom's more salacious testimony. Two of these three sources were directly connected to institutions under Hightower influence. This means that our entire understanding of the events in House of the Dragon may be shaped by Hightower propaganda, a chilling thought that makes us question everything we think we know about Westerosi history. The Faith of the Seven, religious power, and manipulation. If controlling knowledge through the Citadel wasn't enough, the Hightowers also have deep ties to the Faith of the Seven, the dominant religion in most of Westeros. For thousands of years, the Starry Sept in Oldtown was the seat of the High Septon, the religious leader of the faith. The Hightowers have always been among the faith's most prominent supporters, donating vast sums to build sepets and fund religious orders. Multiple Hightowers have served as High Septons themselves, and many more have had close family members in influential religious positions. This religious connection gives the Hightowers enormous soft power. They can influence what the faith teaches about concepts like legitimacy, the right to rule, and proper behavior, all crucial elements in medieval politics. When the faith declares something sinful or blessed, it shapes how everyone from peasants to kings views the world. In House of the Dragon, this religious influence becomes a powerful weapon. Otto Hightower uses religious arguments about male succession to support Aegon II's claim to the throne. The faith's teachings about incest are selectively applied, condemning it generally while making an exception for Targaryens, a convenient flexibility that serves Hightower interests. What makes this truly controversial is that the Hightowers may have played a role in shaping the faith itself. The Faith of the Seven arrived in Westeros with the Andals, but its development into the dominant religion of the continent happened under Hightower patronage in Oldtown. Some scholars even suggest that the Hightowers helped standardize and codify the faith's teachings to make them more useful as tools of social control. This religious influence extends beyond just doctrine. The faith militant, the military orders known as the Warriors' Sons and the Poor Fellows, could be mobilized as a powerful army when needed. While the Targaryens eventually disbanded these orders, for most of history, the Hightowers could essentially call on a religious army if their interests were threatened. By controlling both knowledge through the Citadel and faith through the Starry Sept, the Hightowers created a medieval version of total information control, shaping both what people knew and what they believed about the world. Marriage alliances, the Hightower web of influence. While the Targaryens married brother to sister to keep their bloodline pure, the Hightowers pursued the opposite strategy. They married into virtually every major house in Westeros, creating a vast web of alliances and family connections that extended their influence far beyond Oldtown. The Hightowers have married into House Tyrell, House Redwyne, House Florent, and even House Targaryen multiple times throughout history. These marriages weren't random. They were strategic moves to build alliances, resolve conflicts, and extend Hightower influence. What makes the Hightower approach to marriage alliances unique is their patience. Unlike houses that make desperate marriages in times of crisis, the Hightowers plan their alliances across generations, placing family members in positions where they might not have immediate power but could be crucial in future scenarios. In House of the Dragon, we see this strategy at work with Alicent Hightower's marriage to King Viserys. Otto didn't just happen to bring his daughter to court, he deliberately positioned her to catch the king's eye after Queen Aemma's death. This wasn't opportunism. It was the culmination of a long-term strategy to bind the Hightowers to the royal family. The most disturbing aspect of these marriage alliances is how the Hightowers use their family members as political pawns. Daughters, sons, nieces, and nephews are all deployed to strategic marriages with little regard for their personal happiness. Alicent herself is a victim of this system, sent by her father to seduce the king when she was still a teenager. These marriages create obligations and connections that can be activated when needed. During the Dance of the Dragons, the Hightowers call on their marital connections to House Redwyne, House Tarly, and others to support the Green faction. These houses don't just join because they believe in Aegon II's claim, they join because they have Hightower blood in their veins or Hightower spouses in their beds. The web of Hightower marriages means that even when they appear to lose power, they're never truly defeated. They always have family connections they can leverage to regain influence, making them perhaps the most resilient house in Westeros. Hightower Wealth, richer than the Lannisters. Rich as a Lannister is a common saying in Westeros, but it might more accurately be rich as a Hightower. While the Lannisters have their gold mines, the Hightowers control something far more valuable and sustainable: trade. Oldtown has been the principal port and trading hub of Westeros for thousands of years. Every merchant ship that enters the harbor pays fees that ultimately enrich House Hightower. Every market transaction in the city generates taxes that fill Hightower coffers. This creates a constant stream of income that, unlike mining, doesn't deplete over time. The Hightower's wealth is displayed in their ancestral seat, a massive tower that serves as both fortress and lighthouse, guiding ships into the harbor that makes them rich. The tower itself is an engineering marvel, rising nearly 800 feet into the air, making it the tallest structure in Westeros aside from the Wall. What makes Hightower Wealth particularly powerful is how they use it. Unlike the ostentatious displays of House Lannister, the Hightowers invest their wealth in institutions and infrastructure. They fund the Citadel, support the faith, maintain the city walls, and improve the harbor facilities. This strategic spending ensures that the systems that generate their wealth continue to function efficiently while also building goodwill among the population. In House of the Dragon, we don't see the full extent of Hightower wealth directly, but its effects are visible in Otto's influence at court and in the resources the Greens are able to mobilize. When war breaks out, the Hightowers can afford to hire sellswords, maintain armies, and fund their allies, crucial advantages in a prolonged conflict. The most controversial aspect of Hightower wealth is how it's been used to essentially buy influence within the Citadel and the faith. Generous donations ensure that Maesters and Septons remember who pays for their comfortable lifestyles. This financial leverage allows the Hightowers to maintain their influence over these institutions without needing to directly control them. Money speaks louder than formal authority. The battle against magic, the anti-dragon agenda. One of the most fascinating aspects of House Hightower is their complex relationship with magic. While they've tolerated and even supported some forms of mysticism, they've consistently opposed the kind of world-changing magic represented by dragons and their riders. The Citadel, which the Hightowers have supported since its founding, has been at the forefront of pushing a worldview based on reason and natural law rather than magic. Maesters are taught to be skeptical of magical claims, and some believe the Citadel has actively worked to suppress magical knowledge. This anti-magic stance puts the Hightowers in direct ideological opposition to the Targaryens, whose power is fundamentally based on their magical bond with dragons. It's not just about political power, it's about two completely different visions for what Westeros should be. In House of the Dragon, this conflict is subtly present in the growing tension between the Greens and the Blacks. The Green faction, centered around the Hightowers, represents the traditional non-magical power structures of Westeros, the Faith, the Citadel, and the Great Houses. The Blacks, led by Rhaenyra and Daemon, represent the Valyrian tradition with its emphasis on dragons and bloodlines. What makes this truly controversial is the theory that the Hightowers and the Citadel may have actively worked to bring about the extinction of dragons after the dance. The last dragons were small, sickly creatures that died young, possibly the result of deliberate poisoning or sabotage by Meisters acting on Hightower interest. This agenda wasn't just about opposing the Targaryens, it was about creating a world where power came from knowledge, wealth, and institutions rather than magical creatures and bloodlines. A world where the Hightower's strengths would matter more than Valyrian dragon dreams. Archmeister Marwyn, one of the few Meisters who studies magic, explicitly states in the books that the Citadel has been working against magic for centuries. He tells Sam Tarly, "Who do you think killed all the dragons the last time around? Gallant dragon slayers armed with swords? The world the Citadel is building has no place in it for sorcery, or prophecy, or glass candles, much less for dragons." In House of the Dragon, we see the early stages of this conflict. Otto Hightower dismisses Viserys' dreams and prophecies, preferring to focus on practical politics. The Meisters at court subtly undermine Targaryen exceptionalism, and when the dance begins, the Hightowers show no hesitation in fighting against dragons, developing tactics and weapons specifically designed to bring them down. This anti-magic stance explains why the Hightowers, despite their ancient lineage and possible connections to magical civilizations of the past, present themselves as champions of tradition and order. They've made a strategic decision to oppose magical power in favor of institutional power, a decision that shapes their actions throughout House of the Dragon. The long game surviving where dragons failed. The final and perhaps most important aspect of the Hightower Empire is their extraordinary ability to survive. While other houses rise and fall, the Hightowers endure. They were powerful before the Targaryens came to Westeros, they remained powerful during the Targaryen dynasty, and they're still powerful after the Targaryens lose the Iron Throne. This survival isn't accidental, it's the result of a deliberate strategy of playing the long game. The Hightowers rarely overreach or take unnecessary risks. They build power gradually through institutions, alliances, and wealth rather than through conquest. When threats arise, they adapt rather than fighting losing battles. In House of the Dragon, we see this long-term thinking in Otto Hightower's approach to power. He doesn't try to claim the throne for himself, that would be too obvious and would unite others against him. Instead, he works to place his grandson on the throne, extending Hightower influence while maintaining the appearance of serving the realm. What makes this truly remarkable is that the Hightowers have survived catastrophes that destroyed seemingly more powerful houses. They weathered the Andal invasion by adopting the Faith of the Seven. They survived the Targaryen conquest by bending the knee rather than burning. They even managed to emerge from the Dance of the Dragons with their power largely intact, despite being central figures in starting the conflict. The most controversial aspect of this survival strategy is how willing the Hightowers are to sacrifice individual family members for the good of the house. Otto Hightower essentially uses his daughter Alicent as a political pawn, sending her to seduce the king. Later, he's willing to risk his grandsons in war to maintain Hightower influence over the Iron Throne. Individual Hightowers may suffer or die, but House Hightower continues. This ruthless pragmatism extends to their alliances as well. The Hightowers are loyal to their allies only as long as those alliances serve their interests. When circumstances change, they're willing to forge new alliances, even with former enemies. After the dance, they manage to make peace with the victorious faction despite having been among the primary instigators of the war. By the time of Game of Thrones, nearly 200 years after the events of House of the Dragon, House Hightower remains one of the most powerful houses in the Reach. They've outlasted the Targaryens on the Iron Throne, survived Robert's Rebellion and the War of the Five Kings, and continue to control Oldtown, the Citadel, and their vast trading networks. While dragons have come and gone, the Hightower still stands. House Hightower represents a different kind of power in Westeros, not the flashy, dragon-backed might of the Targaryens, but the subtle, enduring influence of wealth, knowledge, and institutions. Their empire wasn't built in a day or even a century. It was carefully constructed over thousands of years through strategic marriages, patronage of key institutions, and the patient accumulation of wealth and influence. In House of the Dragon, the conflict between the Greens and the Blacks isn't just a succession crisis or a family squabble. It's a clash between two fundamentally different visions of power. The Targaryens represent magical power based on dragons and bloodlines. The Hightowers represent institutional power based on wealth, knowledge, and religion. What makes the Hightowers truly fascinating is that, in many ways, they won the long game. By the time of Game of Thrones, the dragons are long gone, the Targaryens are exiled or dead, and the institutions the Hightowers helped build the Citadel and the Faith continue to shape Westerosi society. Even the extinction of dragons can be seen as a Hightower victory, creating a world where their kind of power matters more than dragon dreams. As we continue watching House of the Dragon, pay close attention to Otto and Alicent Hightower. They're not just ambitious individuals, they're representatives of the oldest and most cunning dynasty in Westeros, playing a game that began thousands of years before the first Targaryens set foot on the continent and will continue long after the last dragon has died. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the Hightower Empire, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments which aspect of House Hightower you find most fascinating or disturbing. This is Explainified, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching this deep dive into the Hightower Empire. If you want to learn more about the powerful houses that shape the Dance of the Dragons, check out my video on House Velaryon and their sea power, which I'll link right here. And don't forget to subscribe for more House of the Dragon Explained videos coming every week. This is Explainified, and I'll see you in the next one.